it up and take a hit.
Smoke dog, baby. Remember that shit. Been smoking since I was 2.
Hey, what's going on? You live on Dogg TV.
How's it going?
What's going on, Aaron?
Oh, not much. Just finished dinner and enjoying this fine evening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all tuned into a segment of Chopping It Up. We got a special guest today by the name of Mr. Aaron Goldberg. You know what I'm saying? We ain't going to do too much small talk. We're going to let him get into his business and go and give his background and give his story real quick, man. Go and tell the people, introduce yourself, tell the people about you.
My name's Aaron Goldberg. I'm 40 years old now. I guess you could say I've been in the cannabis business since I was about 17 years old. I started growing a little bit when I was about 21. Before that, I was just your everyday average neighborhood pot dealer.
Right.
And it always seemed like a really exciting business, especially being in Oklahoma, where at the time it was heavily illegal. And
what time are you talking about? What time was it?
1998 to 2002.
Okay.
And, you know, back then they were just starting to legalize it in California. So I had friends that were going to California and picking up, you know, Humboldt County bud. They were talking about this. Oh, they've got this. They're pine cones. They're pine cones. So they say they're trees. They're little trees. They're all little pine cones. They're all the same size. You know, no seeds, and it's all hydro. And everybody, the only term anybody knew was hydro. They didn't really know what hydro was. They didn't really. And looking back at it, most of the weed probably wasn't hydro. Most weed was probably pretty organic, no-till kind of grow. Some stuff like the Mendo Boys really made famous in Colorado or around that era.
Right.
And most of what I was getting on my hands on at the time was just bricked up Mexican weed.
Mexican brick weed. How much was you paying a pound back then?
Oh,
can you remember?
Here for a while, it ranged everywhere from like $1,200, got down to $400, you know, at one point, and then all of a sudden, people started having. All of a sudden, the guy that I was dealing with started getting this brick weed with no seeds and no stems in it. It was all weed. It was brick though, and he was like, "I need $1,000 a pound for this stuff." And we're going, let's give us a sample. Let's try it. We try it out. We go, "Oh man, that's way better. That's way better." I don't know where he was getting it from, but his cartel was better than most people's because it was way better quality than it was $1,000 a pound. Right. And that's when I kind of started realizing that if you found better quality stuff, you could make more money, because I was making more money on it than I was before with the seedy stuff. And then I jumped up to some stuff that this guy was getting in Texas calling hydro. Okay. And it was just really high quality indoor weed that somebody was probably growing out of like some house down in Dallas or something. Right. And I think we were paying at that time, man, we were paying stupid money, like $2,500 a pound or something. And this was in like 04, 05 probably. So it was serious. It was serious money for pot.
How many units was you getting back then? If you don't mind telling people.
No, I don't mind at all. These crimes have all aged out.
Exactly.
I'd probably move 5 to 10 pounds a week. Nothing serious, nothing major.
No, I'm saying when you went to the plug, when you went to your connect, how many would you cop? Would you get 50? Would you get a bale? Would you get like?
Oh no, I get 5. I get 5 a week.
Okay.
I get 5. I'd pick up 5, pay them out 5, go sell them, and I was selling them like in ounces.
You never got friends?
And every now, like in the beginning, yeah, but after a short period of time, I didn't need to, because I was making good money because I had the best pot, and I was selling it in Norman. You know, I was selling it in OU. I was running up in frat houses and sitting down and having each, like, one customer after another just come and buy. They literally just set up a table for me. I'd come in with a pound of weed and sell through almost all of it.
And frat
in like 30. No, just straight frat house. Not even a party.
Oh, okay.
They just like, oh, what day are you coming? Oh, I'll be there Thursday. And I go to this frat on this day and this frat on this day and just run through it.
Oh, man. Awesome.
Yeah, no, it was simple. It was simple. It was easy money. I was working, I was making a couple grand a week or more. And I was working like not even 10 hours a week.
Easy
My
money.
drive time would be, my easy money. I paid off a car quick. Like I had gotten in some other legal trouble that cost me like $8,000. I paid it off in like a month and a half or 2 months.
Right.
And then I kind of jumped out of the business for a while until I went to California in 2015. I actually went to California in 2015 to get sober from methamphetamines. I had an amphetamine problem.
Okay.
And then I ended up finding out that I had gnarly sleep apnea while I was there.
Right.
Got that fixed. And then I ran 3 drug rehabs, one of which we did marijuana maintenance at. And it was actually the most successful one we had. It's actually had the lowest rate of death, which a lot of people don't understand. The war on drugs is best fought with cannabis.
Yes, sir.
100%. They've even have statistics showing that around dispensaries, the overdose rate lowers by a good percentage. And it's different everywhere. Some places it's high as 50% just by putting in a dispensary.
Man.
That alone should be like, oh, we're going to do federal legalization because it's literally saving lives. That statistic alone should be enough. It should.
Yeah.
Well, so when I was in California, it was really funny because I had this landlord that was taking advantage of me massively at my treatment center because he knew we knew we were doing good and making a lot of money. So he rents out the suite across from me after guaranteeing me that he's not going to rent any of the other suites in this building because he made me rent like over a quarter of this building. I was paying like $15,000 a month rent.
Right.
So he didn't write it down on paper. I should have made him write it down on paper. If he would have wrote it down on paper, I'd have owned him. So he goes, I'm not going to rent it out to any other suites, any other suites to a treatment center. And he does. He rents the one out directly across from me. And it was a treatment center well known for doing very nefarious things. And I go, this is going to cripple my business. I go, I'm going to have to move. And I go, hey, like, I'm going to have to move. So you need to let me out of my lease because you told me you weren't going to do this. And you did it. He goes, I'm not letting you out of your lease. It's too bad. You should have got that in writing. He goes, I don't remember telling you that. And I go, oh, man, okay. I go, okay, well, that's fine. Well, I'm going to have to find other means. And I knew these guys that had ran a marijuana church. And they were very honest businessmen, and they really genuinely believed that the only way they were going to get closer to God was to use cannabis. They believed it tremendously. And I believed it too, just because of a lot of the things that I had seen. And I saw that people get sober that I never believed would get sober. I saw people that were constantly relapsing on heroin, could not stay sober. All of a sudden, they're just smoking pot. And I go, there's something to this.
Right.
And at the time, I was using different forms of cannabis in order to try, because my sleep apnea was so gnarly that they didn't believe I'd ever slept in my entire life before the age of 32. So that's what the doctor said. I stayed in REM sleep for 2.5 hours.
No shit.
No. She said that the normal person stays in REM sleep for about 10 minutes. The longest she'd ever seen anybody stay in REM sleep was 30 minutes. And I stayed in REM sleep for 2.5 hours. She told me it was one of the busiest, her exact words were, this is one of the busiest sleep hospitals in Orange County, which has millions of people in it. And I've been working here for over 10 years, and I've never seen anybody as sleep deprived as you. She told me I was the grand champion.
That's cool.
She did. She said, yeah. She said she retrained her staff. She apologized that they woke me up because they woke me up the next day, and I go, hey, this something's different. Like my head doesn't hurt. I go, my head feels great. Like I need one of these machines. And they go, well, let's see if you qualify for one. I go, well, I got to have one. So like, if y'all aren't going to give me one, I'm going to find a way to buy one. They go, oh no, let the doctor. And the doctor calls me literally that night, tells me I can't drive because I'm too sleep deprived, and tells me that the next day she goes, we put an emergency order for you specifically. And now I have to sleep with a CPAP machine or I'll lose my driver's license. If I go more than like 7 days, this little thing starts sending me emails and they start going, hey, we're going to take your license. And I only know that. Yeah, I don't do it, but I only know that because my machine went out one time and they had to give me a spare, and they started sending me emails. And I go, hey, I called them up, go, hey, y'all got me a different machine. Y'all are trying to take my license. So anyway, my brain chemistry was off because of that, because essentially my brain didn't know how to sleep properly. And so it had to relearn things. It takes a while to do that. And then at one point it made it almost impossible to sleep because I went from being severely tired to having so much energy that I couldn't hardly sleep.
Right.
Like I'd go days at a time without sleep because I just wouldn't be tired. And so cannabis helped.
You would get the Medicaid, like the municipal kind, or recreational kind?
Well, at the time, I was just going to because in California they had churches, and they were basically dispensaries that didn't charge tax.
Right.
And they all told the same story. They all, they had Bibles in there and everything, but they sold tons of pot. I mean, tons.
Right.
And they were a lot cheaper because their stuff was off market and their stuff was a lot better quality because California is so overly regulated that their weed's not any good. They have great weed there, but it's not the stuff they sell in most of the dispensaries.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Cookies in California and you buy the best cookies weed they have, you're paying $70, $85 a gram. And you come here and you buy the same stuff, Gary Payton or whatever, or Medellin or any of that, it's better here.
Right.
The quality's better, it looks better, bag of pills better. It's all around better because they don't have all the regulation on it. They don't have to wait. They don't have to, like, every time they move the plant, they have to do all this massive amounts of paperwork, and it's got to be dried a certain way, and they have to collect all their water, just endless amounts of stuff that they have to do. They don't have to do here.
They don't have to do in Oklahoma?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because the regulation's low. I mean, we still have to test it, but all the steps before that, all the taxation before that, we don't have because there's thousands of growers here. So anyway, I got to know some of these guys, and when this landlord wouldn't let me out of my lease, I go, well, hey, I'm just going to sublease this because the lease said I could sublease. So I go, I'm just going to sublease it to one of these churches because they're wanting to pay me like, for rent, and basically to be a member of their church and to use my space, they were wanting to pay me like a certain percentage that their church would intake in order to cover any problems I might have, which were going to be heavy. They let me know ahead of time, like, people are going to come, they're going to come after you, they're going to come with attorneys, but we got better attorneys. We're all these, a whole bunch of veterans. They had a whole bunch of veterans. So basically, we start selling out of this spot, and we open up a church, put it on Weed Maps, and it starts doing 1,000 patients a day. We're running through $40,000 worth of pot a day.
You bullshit.
Every single day. No, I'm not bullshitting. We were moving over 1,000 packs a month.
Damn.
Every single night at midnight, we would shut down for 15 minutes. And we'd pull up a fucking big delivery vehicle, basically like a U-Haul. Most of the time, they were actually U-Hauls. And some of the biggest dudes that just reeked a pot like you wouldn't believe would get out of these things. And there'd be guys in the back, and they just come unload really, really quickly. And they were moving so much weight that they weren't even counting the dollars. They were weighing everything.
Damn.
And these guys all had like 40, 50 churches. And they're all running numbers like that. And anytime one of them gets shut down.
And it's all tax free.
All tax free. In fact, they sued the hell, and they're doing them right now with mushrooms, and they're suing the piss out of the state for the way that they're regulating stuff. And they're saying
I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say? Anytime anyone gets shut down, what?
They would open another one up. They'd have another spot ready that they build out within days, because they go in and tell the judge, like, hey, we can't shut this down, because they bring veterans up there on the stand. And these were members of their church, and they would sit there and they'd tell the judge, man, this is our beliefs. And they were serious. They never let off the fact that that's what they believe. I genuinely believe wholeheartedly that is what they believe. They do. They absolutely believe it. They had preachers. Each one of them had a level of membership to their congregation.
Right.
And they would go and they would put veterans up there that were missing limbs, and they would tell their war stories when they went to court, and they'd say, now you're trying to kick me out of my own church. And this is how our church supports itself. And they go, we need more time to move out of here. You got to give us like 2 weeks or a month. And a lot of times they give them like 90 days to move out of there. So in the time when they were getting kicked out of there, they'd go find another spot and they'd go rent it, and they would build it out in like days, and then they'd open it up, put it on Weed Maps. And then when that one got shut down, they'd have somebody sitting outside diverting all their traffic to the other spot, and they'd give them free joints. They go, hey, here's a thing for like 5 joints. As soon as you pull up, as soon as you go in the door, hand them this, you're gonna get 5 joints. So of course, all these people are gonna go, heck yeah, I'm gonna go there. Like there'd be people pulling up that knew where the other spot was just so they could get some more free joints.
Right.
And eventually, what these guys did, because they were so overpowering California,
Right.
they were overpowering California's legal economy so badly that eventually what California did was they go, hey, the only way to shut this down is to shut them off of Weed Maps, because nobody will be able to find them. And then after they close down, eventually their traffic will start lowering and lowering and lowering. But there's still some of them open every now and then, but not very many. But what Weed Maps did originally is Weed Maps, they said, California called Weed Maps and they said, we wrote this thing up and we're going to charge y'all $30,000 for each one of these locations that's open per month that doesn't have a license. Right. And so Weed Maps goes, okay, we clearly understand. We clearly understand what you're saying. And Weed Maps puts out an email to all these guys and says, we're upping your price by $30,000 a month. Dang. And all these guys go, okay, because that's 1 day's worth of sales.
Right.
Plus they're getting fined $1,500 a day by the city.
God damn.
Yeah, but they're going in and paying it cash. They're paying it once a week. They go in there and they pay all their fines.
That's the cost. That's the cost of doing business.
That's the cost. That's the toll. That's their tax. They pay their tax, no problem. We'll pay our tax. That's our tax. Yeah, and it wasn't harming them one bit. So then California quickly realizes that these guys don't have any intentions of taking any of these businesses off of Weed Maps. That Weed Maps has no intentions. They're going to pay the fines. And so all these legal places start complaining and they go, hey, because they sent them the emails too saying, we're going to up your amount by $30,000.
Right.
Because they're like, they didn't know who was licensed and who wasn't. So they just said, we'll just up them all. And this gets back around to California. So California goes, well, how do we combat? Because obviously that's not a big enough number. And they go, you're going to have to turn it to day, 30,000 a day. So they turn it to 30,000 a day. And then at that point, Weed Maps doesn't even bother making the call. They go, none of these guys are going to afford this. Right. So they go, hey, we're shutting y'all all off because they're going to fine us $30,000 a day. And there's no way anybody's going to be able to afford that. And they go, yeah, no, we can't. And so they shut them all off of Weed Maps all at once. And all of a sudden, the only people that are on Weed Maps are licensed.
Right.
And around the same time they did that, Weed Maps goes, we're going to get ready for every other state to do this as well, because there was other states that people were pulling the same stuff, like Louisiana. In fact, Louisiana's still up and running pretty hot at the moment. A lot of the churches moved to Louisiana. That's their like safe haven now. So Louisiana, so Oklahoma at that same time, because by then I'd already moved here and opened up a legal dispensary, or actually 3 of them.
You still got them?
I actually just sold them.
Okay.
I did. I sold them. The economy, along with the overpopulation of cannabis industry here, because just recently is the first time Oklahoma limited licenses in any way. And they told us they were going to do it from the beginning. They told us several times, oh, we're going to limit licenses. We're going to make them harder to get. We're not going to let people from out of state get them. And in fact, every time they would say that, the number of licenses would jump by leaps and bounds, because everybody go, oh, we can't get any more licenses, so we're going to buy a bunch so we can sell them.
Right.
In fact, there was people that kept hundreds of them. They caught law firms keeping hundreds of these licenses.
Damn.
And so everybody kept buying licenses, and we saw, like during COVID in our prime, we were running like $10,000 a day per location. We were running quite a bit of money. Nothing like we were doing in California by any means at all, but we were running a good amount of money. Definitely enough money where we could pay our bills, pay our taxes, and treat our employees very well. Well, essentially what happened is they sold so many licenses that most of these stores right now are averaging bringing in under $500 a day.
Damn, that's whack.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. There's local pot dealers doing more than that.
You got kids in high school selling weed more, get more money than that.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
A lot of them. In fact, there was many times in high school when I was dealing more weed than that.
Yeah. You and me both.
Exactly. And there's no way you can run a legitimate business off that. And Oklahoma has some of the cheapest pot in the world. In fact, if you go to Walmart right now in any town in Oklahoma, I bet you money that you couldn't find any custom cut vacuum seal bags. And that tells you one thing, that all these guys that are still growing legally aren't selling it legally. They're shipping. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit, because they can't get any money hardly in state. They can get tons of money. They can't sell, if you have a decent looking pound, it's hard to get $1,000 a pound for it. And it's hard to find anybody that'll buy more than like 7 pounds at a time. There's a few businesses that still have so many stores and areas that are doing decent enough numbers to where every time they re-up, they're buying 7 pounds or 10 pounds. And these are like the Goliaths of the industry right now, by the way, not just the average Joe places. And so there's other guys, though, that they're shipping to in Florida and Kentucky and Ohio and Boston. These guys are buying 100 packs, and they're paying $1,000 a pound. New York, especially. I've got calls from them. I've got calls because I've got buddies that I used to be in the industry with in California. They're going, oh, we're in New York now. We'll give you $1,000 a pound. I'm like, hey, man, I'm not in the industry like that, really. Don't get me wrong. Who wouldn't want to be? But they were. They're paying those kind of numbers. And so it's not hard to believe that they're probably calling around and finding other guys, because there was like 7,000 and something grows in Oklahoma. And there was only 300,000 people smoking weed, 300,000 people with cards. So if you look at that, each grow could grow for 42 people. And some of these grows were massive. Some of these grows were 60, 70, 100, several hundred acres.
Right.
And so you're going, how in the heck did these numbers work out? Well, the only way they worked out is if a lot of that stuff's not moving in state. And just to kind of, not to switch topics, but kind of get to the part that I like telling about the most. Because whenever I had messaged you before, I told you about how I had the only civil cannabis case in the entire state.
Yeah, you told me
that had went to appeals court. But what happened is I got into business with this friend of mine that I'd known since high school. That me and him used to do a lot of pot together. We'd run it all over the place, you know. And so whenever I'm getting in the industry here in Oklahoma, and I knew this guy from Oklahoma. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I didn't spend all my life here, but I spent a lot of it here.
what part?
So I was born in Chickasha. I spent a lot of time in Duncan, Stevens County. And
You
this
ever heard of
guy's
a place
from
called Lawton?
Oh, I know Lawton very well. Is that where you're from?
No, but I ain't got around there a lot.
Oh, nice. That's home of UCLA. You know that? University of Cameron in Lawton area.
I ain't know that.
We called it when I went there, we called it UCLA.
Right.
And because people thought it was hilarious, and it was pretty funny. It's not a bad town though. There's some stores there that are doing decent, but most of the stores there, like that are doing decent, are doing around $30,000 to $35,000 a month, which is about $1,000 a day. And there's not very many of them doing that.
Damn. So back to your story, you were saying they had to cut you a check?
Yeah, well, okay. So
Cause we don't got too much time.
Well, I'll make it quick then. How much time we got?
Probably about like 10 more minutes or 15.
Oh, that's perfect. So I got into business with this guy who was a high school friend of mine. We go way back.
Okay.
And he, from all my knowledge, was a stand-up businessman. Well, whenever we got into business, I quickly realized that I knew way more about pot than he did, because he had never been in a situation like I was where we were serving 1,000 customers a day. He had never seen, he didn't really know the industry. So he owned part of my store in Chickasha, and it quickly became the spot in Chickasha. It was the best. We had the best weed. I teamed up with some guys from Michigan. We were Electroleaf, and we had the best pot in town. And at that time, not hardly many people in the state were growing good weed, and we had a good grower. So we had really good pot, and we also knew all the good brands in the state, and we were buying from them. So like I said, we had the best pot. Well, anyway, we started running numbers. We go from running like $30,000 in our first month, like 50, 100, 150. We got up to where we were running $200,000 to $300,000. And I had other businesses with this guy, and the one that I was running was making all kinds of money. And the one that he was running, he couldn't show me any of the books on it. And he consistently couldn't show me any of the books on it. And I go, hey man, until last time I'm gonna tell you, if you don't show me the books, like I'm locking you out of this other business, because I'd loaned him like a significant amount of money on one of the businesses, like $130,000.
Right.
So anyway, he never does show anything. So I lock him out. I call my attorney and I go, hey, let's file on this guy, because this guy's essentially defrauded me. Like he's not holding up to any of his agreements on our operating agreement. And he's just stealing money from me, and he's not running any of his books, and then he's demanding payments out of this company. And I was paying him, I'm not paying him anymore. I'm locking him out, seizing all distributions. We're doing only salaries, and he's not on salary because he's not allowed here, because he'd harassed some of the girls too that worked for us. And now I'm not cool with that at all. I'm major league against that. I was raised by a single mother, and it's just not something that I'm okay with. I'm sure you're not either. It's just how we are. Anyway, so I lock him out, and COVID happens, and all the courts are shut down. So we try to file, and we couldn't. And then finally, when the courts open back up, we file, and he gets served, and he goes crazy nuts. He's like yelling stuff, like trying to cuss me out over the phone. I'm like, hey, dude, I got an attorney. And he goes, well, wait till you see what's coming. I go, oh, dude, don't threaten me. Like, I could take you. He goes, no, you don't understand. You'll see. That Friday, this guy shows up at my Dunkin' store with the receivership, and he serves it to him, and he's telling him, he's beating on the door and telling him he's going to kick the door down He's like, his name's, I don't even remember his name, but he was an idiot because I had a double-walled steel door with a 2,000-pound magnetic lock. The fireman even told me I had to have a cutoff switch on the inside of the store that the employees could access because they literally said, this door can't be kicked down. They told me that when they came and inspected. They go, this door can't be kicked down. They said, you've designed the store well enough to where we can't break in here and there's no back door. Like we can't get in here if there's a fire. So you got to have some kind of shut off switch for these employees and train them that it's there so they know if there's a fire to hit it so the door will open.
Right. Most of those employees are 600 pounds. You said that one was how many pounds?
2,000.
2,000. God damn, that's overkill.
Yeah.
That's
it was overkill. It was way overkill. It was way overkill.
Yeah.
But we were running all kinds of numbers there, and I knew we were going to.
You need those security precautions like that in place.
I got to. Yeah. There was times we ran $500,000 a month there.
Yeah, you had the right structure.
Oh, yes, sir. So anyway, when they call me and tell me that this ass clown's saying he's going to kick down the door, I said, go on the speaker and tell that dude to start kicking. And tell him when his fucking leg gives out to go get somebody else to start kicking. And I told him, I said, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to call my attorney. So I call my attorney and tell him what's going on. And he goes, put me on the phone. There's no way they can do that. That's not legal. That's not legitimate. He goes, they're ordering a receivership. I didn't even know what a receivership was. He quickly explains to me that this third party is going to come and try to run my company while we're at court. And I go, well, how did this get ordered? Because like they didn't look at my documents. They didn't look. And he's claiming I'm stealing money from him and that I bought my house and my vehicle with money that I had stolen from him, which is shit that I had bought with cash that I had made in other businesses. Before we even started this deal, I'm going, this dude's so full of shit.
Right.
So anyway, the cops come and we have to give over ownership of the stores at that moment because it had been ordered by this judge. And so that Monday, my attorney goes straight down to the courthouse and he's throwing a fit, just an absolute fit. And he's going, you can't do this. You got to give us a trial. We had no trial. Like you had no grounds to do this on. And he's just calling, like he's basically telling the judge that he doesn't know how to do his job. So we go in front of this judge and I'm the only person to testify on that day. And I testified that I hadn't been stealing money, that there was no money missing, that this guy was a con artist that was stealing from me, and that he is just wanting to steal more money and they're giving him access to it, and that he should be, that we shouldn't have a receivership, and that there was absolutely no reason for them to grant the receivership in the first place.
Okay, we got 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm almost done anyway. When this judge is pighead enough that he goes, no, the receivership's going to stand. And I want a $250,000 bond. Because my lawyer's sitting there yelling like, hey, I need a bond. Like, you gotta give me a bond. And so he gives us a bond and $250,000. And we file an appeal. And whenever I post the bond, we get control back of the stores. Right. And he's locked out. And so then on 4/20 of 2020, the appellate court finds in our favor. And they found in our favor with extreme prejudice, which meant at that very instant, they expected that judge to give us our money back and apologize for how wrong he did us because there was no grounds for receivership. Right. And it's funny because Oklahoma had ordered several receiverships by this time on different cannabis companies, but none of them did what we did and filed an appeal. And so I was so pissed off that my attorney calls me. He goes, hey, go pick up your money. And I go, man, I'm so pissed off. I'm going to go up there. And if anybody says anything to me, it would be a miracle if I don't hit them. He goes, well, just don't say anything. So I go, all right. So I walk into that courthouse and I go up to the lady at the court clerk's office because that's where my attorney told me the money would be. And she goes, sir, can I help you? And I just stood there and I didn't say anything. And she goes, sir, can you hear me? Can I help you? And I didn't say nothing. And she goes, oh, I know who you are. And gives me a check for $250,000 because at that very moment, $250,000.
Say that one more time for the people.
$250,000. And you can look it up. You can look this fact up on odcr.com, and you can look under Mark Truitt, and it shows a transfer of $250,000 on there.
God damn.
Yeah, so I go pick up a check for $250,000. I never one time spoke my name, nor did I show any ID. I didn't identify myself to anyone, but at that very moment, they knew who the fuck I was.
God
Because
damn.
they had literally stolen my businesses from me and shit all over me. It probably cost me over $150,000. It did.
Right.
Because in lost sales, revenue, lawyer fees, time off work, and everything. And it might have been even over that. We figured it up, and this court case still isn't over, even though it took place that long ago. In fact, the scheduling order was just entered in May. So this guy's got to start providing records for these other businesses, and essentially all his businesses are shut down, and he's completely liquidated all the assets, and his judges have let him rip me off.
What you do with that money, man? What you do with all that money, bro? You still got it, man.
Shit's still in my safe.
You still look rich, man.
That shit's still in my safe.
Already, I can dig that, pal. I can dig that.
I got a 6 foot wide safe that's 8 foot tall. That thing ain't going nowhere.
Already, man. That's the life, man. You living the dream, brother.
There was a recession going on right now. I'm holding on to every dollar I got.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to wait it out, and then whenever the economy starts turning back up, I'm going to start purchasing stuff.
We got 1 more minute. Anything you want to say to the people? Anything you want to promote? Anything you got going coming up?
Oh, I always promote the guys at Oil Tycoon. They're some really good friends of mine. Other than that, just keep smoking weed, guys. I mean, it's a medicine. It does get you closer to God. I'll testify that myself. In fact, next time I go to court, I'm going to testify that exactly.
I can
that it gets you closer to God. That you should keep smoking weed. Next time you're in line, you ought to holler at me. Let's smoke together.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna come down there, bro. We're gonna link up.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, brother. Be careful.
I'll put all my gold on that day.
Ah, for shit show. Me too.
That sounds good, my man.
We flexing. We're gonna be flexing on them.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, bro. Thank you, bro. Y'all tuned in to
Thank you,
Dogg
brother.
TV. Thank y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Peace.
Peace.